Prof, there are three arms of government here. If the federal government will not do that, I was going to ask you a question about what if we look to the legislature, but there will be the argument that they will not also do it. Can the judiciary in any way help? I mean, they are the more or less like those that interpret the Constitution as it is. Can they help?
Yes, I guess nobody has ever thought about that among us, frankly. We've never thought of taking it before the judiciary. Maybe that would be the answer, you know, one of the answers. Maybe we could go before the judiciary and ask for a judgment that mandates, compels the federal government to do something about restructuring, because that's what the people of Nigeria want. Maybe that's what we will have to do. Whatever we have to do it, because we don't want this country to continue in poverty, and we don't want this country to break up.
Professor, may I come here? Is it about, would that in any way solve the issue of catching a vision for the country? Because after the restructuring, if whoever is leading doesn't have a vision, an example that Alhaji Akasai gave was a governor of Kaduna State, former governor of Kaduna State, who was developing structures that helped to take Kano State, that helped to take Kano State to another level, especially in the area of agriculture. That's because he had a plan, he had a vision. So if there is no vision, would restructuring make any difference?
I just will take you back a little piece of history. In 1952, we had 3 regions. We should have had more. What we should have had then is a western region that was a Yoruba region, a southwest region, a midwest region that should have been what is now half of Delta, and then an eastern region that should have been Igbo, and another region south of that should have been the peoples of the eastern region then, who were in the Delta, plus the Efik and the Bibio and so on. And then another region that should have been Hausa Fulani. And a Midwest, and a Middle Belt region that should have been Middle Belt. And an Eastern region that should have, so we could have had 6 or 7 or 8 regions, and we would have been fine. That's what Chief Awolowo was advocating. And that's what people are now coming back to when they're talking of zone and so on and so forth. It's more or less the same thing, 6 regions. Talking about what the federation will be when we have restructured, we have to look at what it was when we had a lot of power in the hands of the regional governments.
Is that what you would recommend we go back to?
Yes, we must go back to the situation in which the component units of the federation, the federating units of the federation, must control the power to carry out their own policies and to develop on their own. The accumulation of all power in the federal government has created a situation in which there has been destruction of the development initiative that belonged to the regions. That's what has happened. The result is that nobody is doing anything in the region, in the states anymore. You go to Abuja, take money, spend it on the bureaucracy, go back next month, take money, put it on the bureaucracy. And the bureaucracy in every state is getting bigger and bigger, more and more expensive. That is what is happening. We must restore the power, the capability to carry out development. We must restore it back to the component units of the federation.
Speaking about ways to actually actualize this restructuring, do you think that the Southwest lawmakers actually really understand and are actually on the same page and driving this in the National Assembly? Because some say when they had a chance for the bill on devolution of power, it fell through.
When you know, people, you've given people states, 36 states. The local boys and girls who manage the state and the political parties and win election in the state, to the House of Assembly, to the governorship, and so on and so forth. They want to continue to have that. There's nothing unnatural about that. There's nothing unnatural about that. What you have, you want to hold. You know, we have this little state, and it is ours. Whether it is poor or not, it doesn't matter. You know, we have it. We can go there, become legislator and earn money. We can go there and become governor, have a lot of power, and so on and so forth. So that's what we want. But the big question is, what about the common people? What about the common people in the Southwest or in the Southeast or everywhere? What is their position in all of this? You go take money from Abuja, you spend it on your bureaucracy, and most of it goes on to the bureaucracy, 70% or more in some places. The states are in debt. Don't forget, the states are borrowing money heavily, mortgaging the future. The states are in debt. The states are really incapable, not because they don't want to do it, they are incapable of carrying out the type of restructuring, the type of development that will make their states richer, and so on, that will make their people better. So we have to look at that when we're talking about the making of the component parts of the federation. We have to think about that, frankly.
But Prof,
we don't have to surrender. The country doesn't have to surrender. And I'm sure that we can persuade our young people to see that we need stronger federating units.
Speaking about resources, we've had more resources these days than we had in the 60s and 70s. And at that time, they said, look, they fed better. Economy was good. Things were at least relatively okay. And that's why people are clamoring we go back to that time. And that they say...
1970s.
Yes. And then they argue that, so could it be that it has to do with management of resources? Because if we've had more now, and we're not better off than we were then, what's the assurance that if we go with this restructuring, it will be better?
No, you see, restructuring creates units that the people themselves know this is our own unit. And therefore, we don't let the rulers, the local young men who win election and so on, we don't let them have total freedom to go and do what they like. We control them. We want, for instance, there is a group of young people in the West, in the Western region, or you call it Southwest. I usually call it Western region. That's what I grew up in. In the Western region, came together about 2009, 2010, and created an agenda for the development of the Southwest, the Dawn Commission. That's a basic document that can develop the Southwest in a very strong way. But the people who produced it don't have the power to mandate its use. And the result is that it's there in our hands. Sometimes I go and bring it out and I read it and I say to myself, God, thank you for giving us the people who can produce this. God, give us the people who can make it happen.